Hey everybody, my name is Michelle and today I'm going to do the mid-year book freakout tag. So this tag is kind of a classic on BookTube. Everybody does it halfway through the year to analyze your reading of the year so far. And I always feel like it is a good moment to stand still and look back on how your reading year has been so far, what you've read, what you've enjoyed. And what I realized when finding the answers for these questions is that my reading year so far has not been amazing yet. Not necessarily in terms of how many books I've read, because I've read 36 books so far, which is totally fine. That's amazing. I'm very happy with that. But more so because of the quality of the books that I've read. Like, I've only had 2 new 5-star read books, so not including rereads of old favorites. And apart from that, there have been so many 3-star reads that were just okay but did not blow me away. There were also a lot of disappointments, and whenever there was a book that was 4 stars, I was still expecting more from it. So overall, I feel like my reading year so far has been a bit lukewarm, not amazing yet, which kind of makes me a little bit sad because I do love it when like books blow me away, and that just has not happened a lot this year so far. So I guess this is sort of a good moment to realize that and maybe have a better reading year in the second half of 2021. But of course, you can never completely control that because I can never predict whether I'm going to love a book or not, but I'm going to do my best. So for now, I'm just going to do the mid-year book freakout tag and freak out about my reading year so far and answer the questions. And yeah, let's just get started. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2021. So yeah, as I mentioned, I've only read 2 5-star books this year so far. So those 2 are the best books I've read this year. And the first one is The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, which is a historical fiction book that tells the story of a set of identical twin girls. They are light-skinned black girls, and when they are 16 they decide to run away from the small village where they grew up. However, one of the girls, Stella, decides to pass over as white and to pretend that she's white, whilst the other girl returns to the small village with her dark-skinned daughter. This book then follows the lives of the 2 sisters and also of the next generation, what has happened, how they deal with the events and how it has affected them. It is absolutely beautiful. I loved it. It is very character driven, not really plot driven. It's not really a fast-paced plot, but I loved it so much. I felt like all the characters were so real and you really felt like you were there with them. You felt all the emotions, and I also really enjoyed that most of the characters were not perfect at all. I do love to read about good, flawed human characters, and this book was just perfect for that. It was such an experience and I really enjoyed it. And it's also beautifully written. I love the writing style. It was amazing and I had the best time reading it. So that is my first favorite book of the year so far. And then my second favorite is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This book tells the story of 4 college roommates through the years whilst they live in New York City. They all have very different lives, and the focus is especially on one of them, Jude, who has a very mysterious past that he doesn't like to talk about, but that was very traumatic and that still affects him today. Apart from that, the book is just filled with all these sad and horrible and traumatic things you can imagine. It is intense, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an amazing book. It was so well written. I loved it, and it even made me cry, which never happens with books with me. You can watch my reading vlog for this book. I have a separate non-spoiler reading vlog for it, in which I show all my emotions and why I love it so much. Personally, I just love it because it had such an impact on me, and I thought about it for days afterwards. It really would not leave me. The story was so impactful. And again, when a book is so good, then it can make me cry so hard. Like, I was absolutely sobbing. Then it's a 5-star read for me, and then it's a new favorite because this book has left me with such an impression. I enjoyed it so much, and again, definitely a new favorite. The second question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2021? So I looked at my reading list and I discovered that most of the sequels that I've read this year so far were pretty disappointing. There was only one that I still very much enjoyed, and that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Last Hours trilogy. trilogy. This is a Cassandra Clare series. It's another Shadowhunter series, and it's the sequel to the Infernal Devices series, and this one takes place in Edwardian England, and it follows the children of the characters from the Infernal Devices. It is your typical Shadowhunter book. It has all the typical Shadowhunter book things. It has the adventure, the demons, the villain. It also has amazing characters who all have very amazing and interesting stories, which I always very much enjoy. It was not my all-time favorite Shadowhunter book, and that is mostly because I feel at this point I'm just a little bit tired of the Shadowhunter premise, you know, the Shadowhunter mold which every book follows. Like, it's very much the same every single book, which does not make it bad because at least I know what to expect, and I very much enjoyed my time reading Chain of Gold. It is always fun, it is always interesting. I know I mentioned that I filmed a reading vlog whilst reading Chain of Iron, and yeah, I don't think that is ever going to see the light of day because I'm just not very happy with how it turned out, so apologies from that. But even though it was not my favorite Shadowhunter book ever, which has nothing to do with the quality of this book specifically, because I think compared to all the other Shadowhunter books, I still think that this is one of the best. But it has more to do with me personally, and maybe the reading mood that I was in. But still, very much enjoyed it, and it's definitely the best sequel that I've read this year, because the other ones were just so much more disappointing by comparison. Question number 3 is a new release that you have not read yet, but you want to. The book I have chosen for this is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This book is a retelling of the Greek mythology, of the story of Ariadne, and yeah, that is pretty much it. But I really do love Greek mythology. I studied it in high school, and I really love all the myths and the stories. This was released, not exactly sure when, a couple of months ago, not too long ago, but I was immediately intrigued by the premise and the idea of it. And that is why I really want to read it, because I know I just enjoy everything that has to do with Greek mythology. And this one sounds like it's going to be perfect for that. But yeah, I have not read it yet, even though I've owned it since its release. But it is absolutely beautiful, which has to be said. It is a very stunning edition, and I really hope to read it very soon. At least somewhere this year, which is something that I say with a lot of books. Whether it's actually going to happen is another question, but yeah, I really want to. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release of the second half of the year. So to be honest, I am very bad with keeping up with new releases. Mostly I am surprised whenever a new book comes along, and I had no idea. Even when it's one of my favorite authors, I had no idea that a new book was going to be released. So I don't have an awful lot of books on this anticipated reads list. The only one that I can think of right now is False Witness by Karen Slaughter, which is Karen Slaughter's newest book, and it's a thriller. I know absolutely nothing about the premise. I haven't even looked it up. I just know that it's a new Karen Slaughter and it's a standalone. Karen Slaughter always writes brutal thrillers with a lot of very intense plot points and stories, which I very much enjoy. I very much enjoyed other Karen Slaughter books in the past. And I know that this one is going to be released somewhere in July. I'm not really sure when the actual release date is because I've seen different things. But it's going to be released very soon. And I want to pre-order it. Not sure where exactly, but I want to buy it and then read it very soon, because during the summer Karen Slaughter is absolutely the best author to read. She writes amazing thrillers, and I love to read thrillers during the summer. So I guess by default this is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Question number 5 is your biggest disappointments. As I mentioned previously, there have been a lot of disappointments this year so far for me, especially with book series where I read the last book in the series and it was just not living up to my expectations. There were, yeah, multiple cases like those. But the one that I am most disappointed in, especially because it's from one of my favorite authors, was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Now, before you all get angry at me, I don't think this is a bad book. I don't think Kristen Hanna really can write bad books. It was still beautifully written. The Four Winds takes place during the Great Depression in the United States, and it's about a single mother named Elsa who has to take care of her young children during this very difficult time. And the premise was great, the writing was great, there were many parts of the story that I very much enjoyed. However, I also thought that this book was dragged out so much, and for a large part it was just a description of horrible things that were happening without any sort of, you know, resolution to it or any sort of point to it. I felt like it was just going on and on and on with the same things over and over again, and I felt like it wasn't really working towards something. And then at the end, suddenly everything happened very quickly, and I felt like those moments were not really earned that much, and I felt like this book was very much following a template but wasn't really completely inspired. I didn't have the same feeling as I had with some of Kristen Hanna's other books. And that is why, especially with this one, I was so disappointed, because I had expected so much more from it, and in the end it was just not that much. I wanted it to be more story, more character, more whatever. And again, it is not bad. I still gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I think there were still very good things about it. I just know that Kristen Hanna can do so much better than this, and this one, it left me feeling so disappointed because I wanted something that made me feel like the Nightingale, and this one definitely did not. So that made me very sad. Question number 6 is the biggest surprise. For this, I have chosen The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book tells the story of a young woman named Nora who is very unhappy with her life and wants to end her own life. But when she does that, at the stroke of midnight, she ends up in this very weird and mysterious midnight library where she can experience all the different lives that she would have led if she had taken different decisions at certain points. So basically all the possible lives that she could have experienced are now there for her to see for herself. This book was the biggest surprise to me because before this I'd only read one other Matt Haig book before, which was How to Stop Time. And I did not really enjoy that book. I wasn't really blown away by it, so I felt like The Midnight Library was not going to be for me either. But then in the end I decided to give in and give it a chance, and I was so happy with that because I enjoyed it so much more than I did with How to Stop Time. I thought it was very well executed. I loved the subject. It was such good representation of mental illness and such. So this one very much surprised me because it was just so much better overall, and I'm so happy that I decided to give Matt Haig another chance. Not really sure if I want to read any of his other books right now, but I'm just very happy that The Midnight Library turned out to be such a pleasant surprise, which has not happened a lot during this year, as I mentioned before. It was still a 4-star read, not a 5-star read, but it was a very good one and definitely a whole lot better than I had expected. Question number 7 is your favorite new author, whether it's a debut author or just an author that is new to you. For this I have to say Brit Bennett, because of all the reasons that I mentioned previously. I loved her writing and her storytelling, and I'm so happy that I finally experienced her work. I've also read The Mothers by Brit Bennett, and I have to say that one wasn't as amazing as The Vanishing Half, but I still think that the writing was very good. So very much excited to read more of Brit Bennett's work in the future because she's definitely a very talented author, and I cannot wait to see what she's going to write next. Question number 8, newest fictional crush. I have to say I didn't have a lot of fictional crushes this year, so I had a hard time of thinking of one. But in the end I decided to go with Henry from The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book tells the story of a young woman named Eddie LaRue who makes a deal with the devil that she will not grow old, she will stay the same age and be immortal. But in return, the price that she pays is that everybody instantly forgets her as soon as they turn around. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a beautiful story, very fairy tale-like in the sense of be careful what you wish for. But one of the characters is a boy named Henry, which I thought he was very cute. If I have to pick a fictional crush, I would definitely pick him. He was just cute and sweet, and I also very much related to him on a personal level with his struggles and his storyline. And he was just a very pleasant character to read about, and I had a good time, you know, getting to know him on the pages. I still think fictional crush is maybe a bit too strong of a word because I feel like I haven't had a lot of those in the recent years. But he was very cute, very sweet, definitely very interesting. So yeah, I guess he wins the title of the year. Question number 9, newest favorite character. For this question I have chosen Nina Riva, one of the main characters from Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Malibu Rising takes place in the 1980s and it follows Nina Riva and her siblings, and they are the children of Mick Riva, who was a minor character in The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book takes place over the span of 24 hours when the famous yearly Riva party is being held. And what you know as a reader is that at the end of the party, the house where it is held will go up in flames. Nina Riva is a model and a surfer, and I really loved her. I was like taken in with her instantly when I read this book. She's definitely the biggest character out of the entire story. We see most of the part through her perspective, even though there are a lot of other perspectives and a lot of other characters. I felt she was like the main focus, and I felt for her so much. I wanted to crawl into the book and give her a hug and help her with everything. She was so sweet and strong, and she did so much else for like so many other people, and wow, I just loved her so much. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid does that really well, writing these characters that even though they're not perfect, you just care for them instantly. My only complaint with this book and with Nina is that we didn't get enough of her. I felt like this book should have been longer and we should have had more Nina screen time, which I would have enjoyed immensely. But yeah, she's definitely my newest favorite character. I enjoyed reading about her a lot. Question number 10, a book that made you cry. I mean, do I need to say more? A Little Life, obviously. This book made me cry like crazy, which has never happened before with a book. But I have video evidence of it in my vlog for this book, so yeah. There were a lot of tears, but they were good tears, as in it meant that I really enjoyed the book, so yeah, still very much love it. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. Again, for this I have to choose Malibu Rising, because this book takes place in Malibu on the beach and it is very beach-like and summer appropriate, which made me very happy because it just made me feel like enjoying summer and go to the beach and have a good time. And it really put a smile on my face, even though there are some subjects in this book that aren't necessarily there to make me happy. I still thought the overall atmosphere and the overall vibe of this book made me very happy. And of course it also made me happy because it's a new release by Taylor Jenkins Reid, whom I love very much. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you have bought or received so far this year. For me, that is definitely the Fairy Loot Special Editions box set of An Ember in the Ashes, the entire series by Sabaa Tahir. This box set is gorgeous. It has beautiful spray pages with illustrations on it. It is also entirely in hardback and it is all color coordinated and it's just gorgeous. The covers underneath the dust jackets are very pretty. They have this sort of, yeah, emblem on them, this sort of illustration. And lastly, all the books are also signed by Sabaa Tahir. So this box set, stunning, beautiful, I'm in love with it. Definitely the most beautiful books I've bought this year so far, and oh, I love looking at them, they are amazing. And then question number 13, the final question, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I mean, so many. I mean, if it were possible, I would love to read my entire physical TBR that I have right now, but that is probably maybe a bit too much to ask because that is a lot. But if you want to see some books that I want to read this year, at least during the summer, then you can watch my summer TBR video, which will be down below in the description box. Very quickly, some of the books that are featured in there are A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison, The Relic by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Childs, and The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I'm too lazy to give synopsis for all of these, like just watch my summer TBR video because yeah, I don't feel like talking about all of these again, but in that video I talk in more detail about them. So yeah, I still have a lot of reading plans for the rest of the year and hopefully I can make them come true. Those were my answers for the mid-year book Freakout Tag 2021. A little bit of freaking out, a little bit of still happiness, still some books that I enjoyed, but overall a nice way to have a look at my reading year so far. And also it made me realize that I really want to do better in the second half of 2021. I really want to find some really good all-time favorites again. I mean, it wasn't the worst year, it wasn't completely horrible, but I felt like this first half year felt a bit lacking. So fingers crossed that it will be better in the second half. I'm sure it will. But this was it now for this video. If you liked it, maybe give it a thumbs up or leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on your reading year so far. As always, I would really appreciate the support and thank you so much for all the support that you give. If you want to see more bookish content, you can always subscribe. I upload at least once a week and I want to try to make it possible to upload twice a week now. And yeah, hopefully I will see you again very soon in one of my next videos. And until then, bye!